what I really want to talk about is I really want to talk about why therapy plus medication is not enough to improve your mental health. And you're going to say, but I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. Yes. Yes, you are. And we're for therapy. Therapy has been tremendous. We're for medication. So many people need the medication in order for them to function in their lives. Absolutely. Get the medication. But what is the key aspect that you're missing? The one thing that you're missing in this formula is you. You're not calculating who you are and what you stand for and what you believe. That's the missing formula. If everybody is made up of 100 different ingredients, so to speak, right? If you liken it to a kitchen analogy, you can make all sorts of different types of cookies. But you need the ingredients. And if you don't know what's in the cupboard, how can you make the best cookies ever? How can you, if you don't know what you stand for, if you don't know the values that are inside of you, then how can you be the best version of yourself? The therapy and the medication will help, but it's not going to be as effective or as powerful as knowing who you are and knowing what you stand for. Why? Because if you don't know that you stand for respect, you'll never understand why you're upset. You'll never fully understand why you're upset when you're disrespected. You'll just be frustrated and angry. But if you can begin to understand that's a core value of yours, then you can begin to understand, oh, I enjoy being respected. And because now you know that you enjoy being respected, you start showing respect to other people, because there's a reciprocal effect that happens, is that when you show respect to other people, you get respect in return, typically, right? In general, that's what will happen. And so now you start honoring that core value of respect. And what happens is you end up leveling up because you consistently practiced and honored that core value and let it grow within you. And then you, like I was talking before about leveling up, then you can start looking at places where you are respected and start looking and taking an inventory of the people around you. Who respects me? Who doesn't respect me? What does respect mean to me? And being able to understand the fact that you enjoy being respected and that you are showing respect to other people, you can now put yourself in a place where you are consistently around people that respect you. And that's the importance of the core value. That's why it's important to know all the ingredients that are in your cupboard to add it to the therapy and to the medication that you're using. But when you put the stake in the ground and you start showing respect to other people because you know it's a core value and you begin to stand for that, you can now go in the direction that you want to go, which in this case is being respected. And that's just one of many core values. How is any of this related to your mental health at all? You might ask, and the simple answer is this. If you're suffering from depression and anxiety, like I was, I didn't understand my core values. So if I understood my core values, then I could start honoring those core values. And I could put myself in situations, like the example of respect, where I'm now being respected. And when I'm being respected, I'm now gaining confidence. Because essentially, if I'm being respected, usually around people that trust me, and if I trust them, then most likely there's a good chance that I like them. And then I'm around people that I might also grow to love, and all of these things are important for mental health. When we're in a line with our core values, that just helps us with our mental health. It doesn't eliminate, but it'll minimize any kind of depression or anxiety. At least you have a place that you can go where you're respected, And so all of these things, the therapy, plus the medication, plus knowing your core values, helps minimize the drastic effects that come along with the depression and anxiety. And that's how this improves your mental health. Putting yourself in places where you're loved, where you're respected, where you're trusted, where you're honored, where there's honesty, all of these things, plus the other myriad of core values that if you can get into those places, then that just drastically minimizes your mental health. Your anxiety will lower because you'll know that you're respected at church, or you're respected at work, or you're respected in your community because of the things that you're doing, and your anxiety will pop up when something new happens. Oh, I need to go into this area and I've never been in this area before. Or I need to talk to this person and I don't know this person. That's when the anxiety will pop up. But at least you'll be doing it in a place that you're surrounded by people that respect you. And that's why it's so powerful. And that's what we're trying to get here with the Wellness Education Network and the channel that we made. It's to help you get to those places that you need to be so that you can be the version of yourself that you want to be. And the world around you wants you to be, so that you can provide the most value because of you know who you are, and now you're in places that you want to be. How do we get there? What I can tell you from my own personal experience, I was a man who didn't get out of bed before lunch. My depression was so bad that I was unable to get out of bed before lunch, and I would use sleep as a way to distract from the awfulness that was going on in my head. And you can listen to that in the first episode of the Wellness Education Network. You can find it there on episode number 1. But the hardest thing that I had to do was start. All I knew is that I was better than what my current circumstances were showing me. But when I looked at my reality, as much as I thought I was a respectable man, I wasn't. When I looked deep inside of my mind and in my heart, what I found was a frightened child. And when I look at how I was behaving at that time as a frightened child, a 35-year-old man who couldn't get out of bed before lunch, wasn't getting out of bed before lunch because of the awfulness that was in his head. And it was terrible. It was terrible what was going on upstairs, right? Persistent and consistent thoughts of permanently choosing to leave this planet. So what did I do? I chose to get help. I chose to find a psychologist, and I chose to use some medication, but I also chose to continue to look for help. And eventually what I found was a Recovery College Wellness Center. And I found that this particular model, the CHIME framework, which I'm going to leave up here from this woman over here, was incredibly helpful. Inside that CHIME framework is the I, which is identity, which is exactly what we're talking about now. In that model, I was able to discover who I was, what I stood for, but I also began to understand that I am not my diagnosis. I'm not. I have a diagnosis, but it's not who I want to be in the world. And I spent so much of my time thinking, how do I cure my depression? I have to be able to cure this. I'm going to a psychologist. I'm going to a therapist. I was taking in podcasts, which is why we have a podcast, to provide that knowledge to others and trying to help me change and be the person that I wanted to be. I was searching for who I was. And that CHIME framework that I just pointed to was incredibly helpful. And that's what I did. And I'm going to link that model in the description below so that you can start looking into it. And if you can find a Recovery College Wellness Center, that's great. But at the very least, understand who you are by looking at your core values. Every human on this planet has core values. That includes you. You have things that you believe in. You have things that you want to be. You have things that you want to honor. And our mental health can get into the way of them. If you can find out who you want to be and what you stand for, you can have an amazing life. You can have an amazing life. And if at the end of it, on the graveyard, where we all end up eventually, people chose to write your identity on there, like, loving husband, devoted father, or in my case, a good man, then we did it. We did it. And so I would just implore you, I'm going to leave a link to Brené Brown's core values in the description. It's a free link. Take a look at it. If you can, highlight it, either highlight it digitally, print it out, or circle it, whatever it is, and start knowing who you are. Because if you know who you are and you know all your core values, you can have an identity. And if you have an identity, that means you're going to have a reputation, and that's what people are going to know you for. And that's the person we need in today's day and age. The world around you needs that. So that you're providing value for the person that you are. We have to get there by starting. I'm going to have some follow-up videos about this. We have a mental minutes tool that's dedicated to help you get tiny actionable tips for you to help you in regards to your mental health, to help you improve your mental health, right? These are wellness tools that can help have an impact and improve your mind. So take a look at that playlist. Take a look at our podcasts at the Wellness Education Network. Let us know in the comments what other things that you're looking for, and help us get to our first 100 subscribers. We're interested in getting this channel going, and we need your help for that. If this brought you any value, consider subscribing. But I just want to sign off by saying thank you for listening. And also too, if you're having those terrible thoughts about choosing to leave this planet, please, you're suffering in silence and you're experiencing a crisis. I've had many of those times happen to me. And don't leave us. If you have to, dial 988. You can also dial 911 and get yourself to a place where you can be safe. And maybe that's the hospital. It was for me in my case, and it may be for you, but maybe it's another place. But with that being said, I just wanted to say thank you. And hopefully you've learned something from here. Try to get those core values and understand who you are, along with medication and therapy, and you're going to be a formidable person. And I'd love to know you.
Thanks for watching. What are your thoughts? Do you agree with our take on this? What are some of your core values? Let us know in the comments below. And if you're looking for our Mental Minutes videos to help improve your mental health, be sure to check out our next video on screen now. Consider subscribing to hear more wellness education videos. Help us get to our first 100 subscribers, and consider supporting the channel by buying us a coffee using the link in the description below. Thanks for being our friends, and thanks for being awesome.